All right, I've talked a lot about my baseball stuff like that. It's time to talk about something, some people that have had just as big of an impact, if not bigger. Um, like, I have a fishing Instagram, and that earned me pro staff with a razor fin, which is a nice thing. And oh my god, it keeps zooming in and out. It's annoying. And then Fishaholic is just a hat from my local tackle shop. Just a hat from my local tackle shop that I like. But anyways, but it's the tackle shop's not called Fishaholic. That's just a brand. Um, and I've taught uh, the person who taught me how to fish, uh, taught me how to just fish in general was my grandfather. He's awesome. He's the best. Bought me this hat. This was like one of my oldest hats. It says "Bite Me." Cove Resort Fish Lake in Leavenworth. That's where I caught 30 some odd fish this year. Bass. I'm a big bass guy. Um, but he's sadly he can't go on boats anymore, and I'm going to have to fix this Zoom problem because it is driving me crazy. Um, but so he hasn't been able to take me on to bass fish, and he lives in Arizona. He also taught me how to play baseball, and I've learned so much from him. If you had one of those heroes back, who was your hero back in like first grade or kindergarten, he was the one I put in there. Then I kind of self-taught, but I also had a mentor, and one of my four closest friends in Bradley. He does ministry. He's in ministry right now. He was a youth leader when I first met him, and he invited me on his boat. Introduced me, and I was getting into bass fishing because of YouTubers and whatnot. And he gave me a jig. Actually, he told me to go buy a jig, and I went and bought a jig. I accidentally bought a black and blue swim jig, and I bought some Rage Claws. I have it back in there, and you know, but it worked. I caught my first largemouth. I'd caught a smallmouth on a popper earlier that year. God, I couldn't cast for my life. This is 3 summers ago. 3 summers ago. Um, and I caught some smallmouth with my grandfather and one smallmouth on another guy's line that he had abandoned. But I don't know if I'll talk about those, but I don't remember the first smallmouths very much. I do remember that one smallmouth that I took off the other guy's line because he went swimming. Anyways, but I fell in love with a jig. I mean, I've almost caught 100 fish off a jig, but I love black and blue. Bandits were black and blue. I love the color. This year is green pumpkin. In the span of a week, Bradley. It was funny. So the story of this jig, it's a Dirty Jigs tour level pitching jig. I mean, nobody really knows, and that's a Bandito bug. That particular combo, and I had a chartreuse dye that's now worn off. Um, that that one right there was swallowed by a 6 pound. It's going to be the thumbnail. 6 pound, 6.1, 6.2 pound largemouth. I think it was 6 pounds 3 ounces. 6.1, 6.2, something like that. Just a little bit above 6 pounds. Right before a baseball game, and I jumped in the water, got my phone wet, destroyed my phone. Had to ask for some random person who is not. That area is known for au pairs, who are people who visit, who are stay-at-home nannies. I've had some before, and anyways, it wasn't local, but I did get the picture. Um, and 3 days before, I'd been fishing with Bradley, and that March we had caught my personal best and his. Um, his was exactly 5 pounds. Mine was 3.7. And 3 days before we had been fishing, and I went and I said, "Hey Bradley, you know, Someday my PB will be bigger than yours. And he said laughingly, haha, yeah, yeah, you're right. One day I'll be dead. And I called him up, once I got some form of phone. And I said, hey, remember when you told me that your PB, when I told you my PB would be bigger than yours? And he goes, yeah. Well, today's the day. That was last summer, 2019. It's still bigger. His has not changed. I caught 4 fish over 5 pounds this year. Sorry, Bradley. Just rubbing that one in a little bit. All on a green pumpkin jig. Maybe one on black and blue. But difference was is I got a little pontoon boat and I was fishing on my own, and I would drive up to this lake called Potholes in Moses Lake, and I caught two in one day. I caught 10 fish in 2 hours. It was nuts. But yeah, I had a little pontoon boat, little motor. It was good. Fish Lake is where I caught a bunch too. Green pumpkin jig barely touched black and blue unless it was night. But that's what they ate, and I couldn't throw my swim baits because I love to throw big power fishing guy, but which is fun with Bradley because I'll throw power fishing. It's like I'll throw a jig, and so it's like if I run into a lot of big fish, but Bradley will, if it comes down to numbers, he'll crush me. He'll throw a Cinco and I'll throw a jig. It's like 90% of the time they're gonna crush the Cinco over the jigs, but you'll catch 1 pounders, they'll catch all three. You know. Sorry, enough fish talk, but that was something that was a big plus in 2020. Besides Melanie, I didn't get to fish with Bradley as much as I wanted to, and uh, he had a hand issue, which I feel really bad, and I hope it resolves itself. But uh, so we're hoping to get fishing in the spring, not spring, late winter versus early spring, um, and maybe throw some swim baits, maybe drag some football head jigs or big smallmouth. Who knows? But that was another escape for me, and another place where I felt at home because when you're on the lake by yourself or even with a friend, you don't have to wear a mask. And in these days, I mean, you can just relax, and it was a positive. It was like, oh, I caught 3 fish today. Oh, I caught 4 bass. It was awesome. It was funny. There's a lot of Airbnbs on the lake, and they're like, "Hey, you want a beer?" And I'm like, "No, I'm good. I gotta drive." But you know, it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. It's like and you're just by yourself on the lake, and it's peaceful, and throwing a jig, and that's part of it. Another part of it is I don't know if Chris, if you've gotten into this video, um, but you know, I enjoyed taking people once I had learned stop focusing, stupid camera, uh, taking people and teaching them how to fish. I taught my friend Ian, taught Chris, um, and it's fun to watch them fall in love like Bradley did for me and my grandfather did for me. Teaching them how to fish and fall in love with the sport. And I still remember. I love swim baits, and I've caught one glide bait bass. And I was talking to Chris, and we are at this pond, private pond, trespassing. It was a park, neighborhood park, but private park, and blah blah blah. I've gotten the cops called on me a couple of times there. I don't really care. Anyways, but I was throwing a glide bait, and it's October 17th or something of last year. And I'm like, Chris, if I catch one on a glide bait, I'll give you, one, and I'm explaining the rules, and I'm probably going on for about a minute, and I go, hey, I got one, and there's just, starts splashing, the little fish, it was about 2 pounds long as anything, not very, it was a 2 pounder, 2.1, and Chris is, laughing like, no, you're joking, and I'm like, no, I'm not joking, I have one on, caught it, landed it, and I don't know if I deleted the video or not, but we're just laughing hysterically because I was in the middle, like not like I'd finished. I was literally in the middle of my sentence when I said, Chris, I have one on," and I followed up with that promise. I gave him River to Sea, S-Waver 168, which is a great starting glide bait, but you know, it's fun to see people get into the sport and fall in love with it, and it's also a great time to spend time with friends because like it's a funny story. You know, I lost. That I gave him that I caught one. It's fun that I caught one. My first. It makes it more memorable. But there's a quote that's on all my Instagram pages, except for the one that I don't use. That is, many men go all their lives. Many men spend all their time fishing without realizing it's not the fish they're after. That's a that's a botched quote, but it's the same thing. And it's not about fishing; it's about the time you spend with people, and it's the time you spend with God. Tim McGraw just released a song, uh, or Trace Adkins, I can't remember, but I think it was Trace, talking about I'd rather be I'm going to the lake and I'm thinking about God than being on the lake thinking about what I would be throwing if I was on the lake. And it's true. I've spent plenty of time, spent on the lake, thinking about God, praying, and you know, I spent plenty of time with Bradley, discussing, faith and just all that stuff. And it's important. And you don't have to be fishing. You don't. I'm not saying you gotta fish, but like having a place to go. Maybe in the summertime you like to go read a book, and you can finding a quiet place. Maybe you like to read a book outside. Maybe find a quiet place to do that more often. Or playing a card game with a grandparent or a parent or a brother, or even video games. I mean, I'm not even saying outdoor activities, but um, for me, just that social aspect, or even just that peace and quiet, and enjoying an activity where you're free is a godsend. All right, it's getting a little long on the video, but I just want to say thanks to all the people I mentioned in the video today. You're all a blessing to me, and thanks, Bradley. I owe you a good meal next time we go out fishing. So let me know what you want. All right, take care. God bless, and stay safe.